All right, joining me now, conservative columnist Tammy Bruce. She's the president of Independent Women's Voice. Also with me is Jeff Bergen, former comms director for Democratic Florida gubernatorial candidate Andrew Gillum. All right, Tammy, Generation E.
I'm exhausted.
Generation E.
Yeah.
How do we get here?
It's remarkable, isn't it? 'Cause the variety of things you showed there really have, I think, a common linkage, which is, you're right, that there's been an education, if you will, by people who actually do know better. We know that there is no free money, right? It doesn't grow on trees. If there's a redistribution of wealth, that means it's coming from businesses and other dynamics that are supposed to be creating jobs, creating income, right? Allowing people to live lives that best suit them. There's an interesting disconnect here. And look, who doesn't really want, if you could go and live on a paradise island and have everything you wanted at the snap of a fingers, you know, you'd be Elizabeth Montgomery, I guess, in Bewitched. Who wouldn't want that? The fact is, though, that these kids have been abandoned, these young people have, by adults who know that that's not possible, who know that life and work is something very, very different. And so they're using these young people. But at the same time, the Democrats don't have really anything else to offer. The economy is good. We see what the President Trump economy and mission has accomplished for us. And the Democrats do have to stand for something else. But you can only argue for these things when the economy is good. I mean, that's the irony here. You can say, look, we're doing so well. Americans do love to help people. And this is what the Democrats are falsely telling
Well,
you.
I would say, Jeff, that the Democrats, in my view, do stand for something, but they're pretty radical things. And I want to play something. This is Kirsten Gillibrand tonight on immigration. Let's watch.
That should not be under ICE. It should not be under Homeland Security. Immigration is not a security issue. It is an economic and a humanitarian and a family issue. There is no such thing as an illegal human.
No national security implications of immigration?
Well, I think the senator's speaking to the very real fear that's out there. At the end of the day, this country and the Statue of Liberty in the state that she represents is a welcoming statue. It's supposed to welcome the poor, huddled masses to our shores. And there's a lot of people out there that feel like we've lost that national promise. I think the senator and a lot of her colleagues, a lot of folks running for president are talking passionately about restoring that goodness, that openness.
So you don't think America's good letting in 1.2 million people a year we give green cards to in the United States? Every poll that's ever been done shows that people either want to keep that steady or decrease even legal immigration. That's Gallup. Every time they ask this question, the numbers are the same, even when we have new generations of immigrants. So you think America now isn't good or isn't generous
I think our country's had a long, evolving history when it comes to immigrants. Take an ethnic group, and you've seen at some point in this country's history some form of discrimination. We're an evolving
But they
country.
come actually legally. They came legally to the country. The turn of the century, the Italians, the Irish, legally. And yeah, even then they were discriminated against. But now we're talking about a border where people are entering in between ports of entry. Not coming in ports of entry, but 76,000 people apprehended illegally crossing the border, coming through between ports of entry. That's illegal. So, or you don't even think we should call it illegal?
No, I think we've had a broken system. I think we've had a broken system for a long time.
They should all be waived in?
No, I think we should actually sit down and have a real conversation within the United States Congress. And unfortunately, the president has so thoroughly changed the mood and the tone of this country that any kind of compromise, any kind of bipartisan solution just doesn't seem possible at this point.
Tammy, there are other things happened. And I want to play this. This is Beto O'Rourke, who's, he raised $6 million in 24 hours. Incredible haul.
It's impressive.
People are ridiculing his rollout, sweat stains, and, saying he's a part-time dad. He was kind of being self-deprecating. I thought that was overly harsh on him. Sorry, but I thought that was one of the more ridiculous criticisms of him. But nevertheless, he was pressed on one position today. Let's watch.
Are you for or against third trimester abortions?
So the question is about abortion and reproductive rights. And my answer to you is that should be a decision that the woman makes.
That's where we are.
Yeah, it's interesting how he just sped across that. He misled everyone about what that question was. It wasn't about abortion, right? When you're at a third trimester, a baby is crowning. My activism began on the left through abortion rights. That is not what we were fighting for. We were fighting for women to be able to make a decision for themselves, as most Americans agree, 80% in the last poll, agree with the limitations of Roe versus Wade, but he skimmed through that. That was about the issue now for the Democrats. It's about infanticide. And even he can't face it. But that is the problem that they've got. We've seen Democrats who seem perfectly nice and in important positions of power, like Governor Northam, speaking really in a banal kind of way about this kind of horror. And Americans don't like it because that's not what any of us have wanted.
How do the new Hispanics who've come into this country, almost majority Hispanic population in the next, 10 years in California,
Sure.
on its way to Texas. I mean, these are religious people. I mean, these are people who are deep faith. But you don't even need to be
religious, yes. The people of faith, absolutely. But this is something that appalls everyone. Atheists.
Well, it should.
Any person of faith, any regular human being.
But he just rolls off his tongue. He just rolls off,
Just obscures it.
All right, I want to play something else. This is another element of what the angle is about, the entitlement grievance racket. Okay, the refusal to accept election results. Now, last week at an event in Washington, Stacey Abrams claimed, quote, "I did win my election. I just didn't get to have the job." And Jeff, your old boss, added this on Real Time with Bill Maher on Friday night.
Had we been able to legally count every one of those votes, not just in Florida, but also in Georgia, I wonder what the outcome may be.
All right, Jeff, the left freaked out when they thought Trump might not accept the 2016 election results. They went crazy on that. So why should people on the left get away with those kinds of comments?
Well, because my old boss and Stacey Abrams are talking about actual suppression of voters. They're talking about actual actions taken by.
So you tonight you don't accept the will of the voters and the Secretary of State in each state, the certification of the election?
I stand squarely with my old boss. I stand squarely with Stacey Abrams. I believe there were real irregularities in both elections.
So you don't believe
in Georgia, it's like playing a basketball game where the ref then gets to take his shirt off and play for the other team. I mean,
okay, so you don't believe. So you actually don't believe DeSantis is the governor of Florida, for instance?
I think he certainly is, and I think Governor Kemp is also the governor right now. But at the end of the day, I think we need to look at how we got to this point where there were bitter lawsuits, where there was frustration.
Oh, no one likes to lose. I hate losing. Anytime I lose, I'm not happy about losing. I get it. But they literally, and Tam, you remember this. Even last week, I think it was on Morning Joe, one of the bright lights on Morning Joe was saying, Donald Trump's not going to concede in 2020. They're saying he's not going to concede and he will start a civil war. He could start a civil war.
Yeah, and this is where we have the rule of law, right? We may have disagreements about when you can make arguments that there should be a lawsuit or not every single vote was counted, and if the votes that were counted were even citizens. Bottom line is, we've all agreed that when there's the rule of law and we have judges and parties agreeing that.
How about provisional ballots? You don't even have an ID. You get counted provisionally unless there is a particular margin or you have to go back. Provisional ballots in most states, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe, provisional ballots, even if you have no ID at all, you can vote.
And we've got to come to a point where we have this agreement. Otherwise, there's chaos, isn't there? And unfortunately, it sounds like that kind of chaos where no election that is not won by a Democrat isn't considered serious. And that's a problem.
Jeff, I'm really glad you came on tonight, by the way. I was joking with Jeff that he looks so young. I'm like, is he carded? He's like, yes. I said, I want to be carded. Thank you for being on with us.
He's young enough to where he's going to learn a few lessons, I think, with conversations like this and maybe become a Republican.
I look forward to coming back in 2021 and having a peaceful transfer of power from President Trump to the Democratic nominee.
Keep believing that, my friend. But I'll accept the results of the election.
There's a unicorn in the back as well.
All right. Now we're glad you came on.